The study of market comprises the study of demand and supply. The supply side of market is as important as the demand side. Supply side analysis provides the true picture of the market. Well then, I am Professor Dhananjay and in this video we are going to learn meaning of supply and concept associated with the supply. Supply refers to the various quantities of commodity offered by the seller at various prices at a given point in time. Supply of a commodity depends upon many factors such as price of a commodity, price of related goods, cost of production, technology, availability of raw material, government policy, and infrastructure. The relationship between supply and its determinants of supply is explained by the supply function and it is expressed as quantity supplied is the function of price. Here we have QS is equal to F of P, where QS is the quantity supplied and P is the price of product. There is a positive and direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. This relationship is expressed by the law of supply. Well, what is law of supply? The law of supply states that remaining other things constant, as price of a commodity rises, quantity supplied increases, and as price falls, quantity supplies decreases. It means that there is a positive and direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. As price increases, quantity supplied increases, and as price falls, quantity supply also falls. This happens because of two reasons. One, producers are willing to supply greater quantity as price increases to gain the advantage of the increased price. And second, as greater quantities are supplied, marginal cost associated with such supply also increases. To cover the higher marginal cost, producer expects higher price of such supply to keep the supply continue. Therefore, there is a positive and direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. The relationship between price and quantity supplied is expressed by a simple linear supply function. Here we have Qs is equal to minus C plus dpx, where Qs is the quantity supplied, C is the parameter which tells that what is the quantity supplied when the price is 0, and D is the parameter or coefficients of the supply function which tells that the change in the quantity supplied when the price is changed by rupees 1, and it is denoted as delta Qs upon delta Px, and it is read as change in the quantity supplied due to change in price. The negative sign before C parameters tells that there will be negative quantity supplied when price is 0, and positive sign before D parameter tells that there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. After understanding the supply function, let us try to understand the supply schedule. A supply schedule is nothing but the tabular representation of various quantities supplied of a commodity at a various prices. In this table, we have mentioned the supply schedule of commodity X. In the first column, we have mentioned the price of commodity X, and in second column, the quantity supplied of commodity X. You can observe here that as the price of a commodity is increasing, quantity supplied is also increasing. When we plot these points on the graph, what we get is the supply curve. In this diagram, when we plot these combinations and when we connect these combinations, we get is the upward sloping supply curve, which shows that there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. As price increases, quantity supplied also increases. The supply curve mentioned in this diagram is the individual supply curve. That is, it is the supply curve of individual seller. Likewise, we can have different supply curves of different sellers. And when we add those supply curves, what we get is the market supply curve. Well, what is market supply curve? Market supply curve is nothing but the horizontal summation of individual supply curves. Prior to that, we'll try to understand market supply schedule. Well, what is the market supply schedule is? Market supply schedule is the summation of individual supply schedule of the seller. In this table, we have mentioned individual supply schedule as well as market supply schedule. In the first column, we have mentioned the price of commodity X. In the second and third column, we have mentioned the individual supply schedule of the seller A and seller B. And in the fourth column, we have mentioned the market supply schedule of commodity X. Now, the market supply schedule is the summation of seller A's and B's supplied at the various prices. When we plot this data on the graph, what we get is the individual supply curve as well as market supply curve. In this diagram, we have SA, the seller A's supply curve, SB, the seller B's supply curve, and SM, the market supply curve. Well, how we get the market supply curve? Market supply curve is derived from the horizontal summation of individual supply curve. In this diagram, you can observe that at a price 3, seller A supplies 2 units of commodity X and B seller supplies 4 units at same price. When we add the quantity supplied of seller A and B, we get the market supply curve. The market supply curve is derived from horizontal summation of individual supply curve. So the market supply curve basically used to determine the equilibrium price in the market. Well, after understanding the supply curve, we need to understand the two important concepts which are associated with the changes in the supply. One is movement along the supply curve and second shift in the supply curve. Prior to that, we need to understand why does there is a change in the supply. The changes in the supply takes place when there is a change in the determinants of supply, such as if there is a change in the price, quantity supplied also changes. Such changes is associated with movement along the supply curve. And second, there is a changes in the supply due to changes in the non-price determinants. Such changes is associated with the shift in the supply curve. Let us try to understand one by one. Suppose that there is a changes in the price due to which the supply of commodity will also change. In this diagram, we have mentioned the individual supply curve, that is SS. When the price of a commodity is rupees 2, 6 units of commodity X are supplied. When the price of the commodity increase to rupees 3, 10 units of commodity X are supplied. So the movement from point A to B is associated with the changes in the price while other determinants of supply are constant. Such movements is called movement along the curve. Remember, the movement along the curve occurs when there is a changes in the price of a commodity while other determinants of supply remains constant. Let us try to understand the second concept, that is shift in the supply curve. The shift in the supply curve occurs when there is a change in the non-price determinant and price remains constant. When the price of the commodity remains constant and supply changes due to change in the non-price determinants such as changes in the cost of production, supply curve shifts to the rightward or leftward depending upon changes in the cost of production. In this diagram, we have mentioned SS as the original supply curve. When the cost of production falls due to any reason, quantity supply will be increased at that price. In that case, the supply curve shifts to the rightward. when the supply curve shifts to the rightward, there will be increase in the quantity supplied at that given price. When the cost of production increases due to any reason, the quantity supply will be decreased, and due to which the supply curve will shift to the leftward. In the diagram, the S1 supply curve represents when there is an increase in the quantity supplied due to fall in the cost of production, and the S2 supply curve represents there is a decrease in the quantity supplied due to increase in the cost of production. Remember, the supply curve shift to the rightward when there is an increase in the quantity supplied due to changes in the non-price determinant while price is constant, and the supply curve shift to the leftward due to changes in the non-price determinant while the price remains constant. So, the changes in the quantity supplied occurs when there is a change in the price and non-price determinants. The first concept that is associated with the changes in the quantity supply is called the movement along the supply curve, and it happens when there is a change in the price and the other determinants of quantity supplied remain constant. And the second is a shift in the supply curve. It occurs when there is a change in the non-price determinants such as change in the cost of production while the price of the product remain constant. Well then, in this video we have discussed about the meaning of supply, the law of supply, and derivation of individual supply and market supply curve. And lastly, we have also discussed about the changes in the supply. I hope you understood this lecture. Do ask your questions in the comment box. Do like our video and subscribe our channel for getting notification of upcoming video. Thanks for watching.